Sam Cole says, Ian Collins complaining about Islamophobe of the Year while giving Scouser Paul free airtime to abuse Muslims unchallenged. Well, two things there. I think his name was Alan, the guy called, unless he calls under a different name, Paul, but certainly not familiar to me. Anyway, I think you have difficulty improving the unchallenged bit, Sam, but hey, I'll let you enjoy that view because you clearly have already made your mind up on that. We've got a lot of dead wood out there, haven't we, on the Twitter sphere tonight? Abbas is over here for some sense in Redbridge. Abbas, what's happening?
Hi there, good morning.
Morning.
My personal view is that I think you're right. Potentially, people could be under threat if they're labelled as Islamophobes when perhaps they're not Islamophobes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the issue also is that, I think we can clearly see, even if, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, Muslims and Islam has somehow become like almost enemy number one now in the media. And so it's very easy to become sort of hypersensitive and almost, like you said, label everyone an Islamophobe just because they're criticising your religion or challenging your beliefs. I mean, I'm all for having freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but I think there is a responsibility that we have to also be honest, though, don't we? Because, as I agree with you, that potentially there could be a threat for people who are labelled Islamophobes, but every Muslim becomes threatened by lies and deception. I mean, Al is a classic example. He comes out with, paedophilia, the grooming gangs, how this was like a Muslim issue or a Muslim problem. When in fact there was a clinical psychologist, I think she rang your show or certainly one of the other shows about a...
She did, I know exactly who you're talking about, yeah.
Do you remember? She
was our first caller on that night.
That's right, and she said that I work in this particular field, and please do correct me if I'm wrong as to what she said, and she said that there were other gangs very close to the grooming gang in Rotherham, which happened to be Muslims and Asians, who were actually all white. And she said it was very difficult to even get the story on Google when you Googled it. Now what I'm trying to say... Yeah, I mean, I think,
to be honest, I think she was... in fairness, Abbas, I'm not disputing the last point the main point you made, but I think the last point when she talked about that, I think she kind of mooched into slightly politicised conspiratorial territory a little bit. But
all I'm saying
I take your point.
We've got to be honest here. Yeah, are there some crazy, Muslims out there? Absolutely. They're an absolute embarrassment for us as well as Muslims, right?
Yeah.
Country enjoying, what is really a very beautiful, fair country for most people. But at the end of the day, they are a very, very small minority. My father's been here since the 50s. He told me that they've never heard of these Asian or Muslim grooming gangs for the last 30, 40 years. This is a very recent thing. These people are not because they're Muslims or because they're Asian or whatever. A lot of these people are not known in the mosque. People don't regard them as practicing Muslims. And in any case, in Islam, as you probably are aware, and most of your probably listeners are aware, it's actually a very serious sin to have sex out of marriage, right? It's very much frowned upon. So raping children, if you were in an Islamic country, under Islamic law, the penalty for that is execution. So, this is not a Muslim problem. These people are going completely against what Islamic teachings are.
What for many people it threw up was an issue of cultural assimilation. That's what many... I mentioned it being a racist issue, which I think is a reasonable analysis of a bunch of people from one culture stroke nationality looking at a bunch of people from another culture stroke nationality and thinking, I am superior to you, you are nothing but dead meat to me, so therefore I can do whatever the heck I like. I think that's probably a reasonable analysis of that.
Well, actually, Ian, I probably disagree with you, and I can understand why you're saying that, but I think it's even more fundamental, more basic than that. These guys are cowards, they're perverts, and they, as perverts and cowards do, they go for the most easiest targets that they can possibly get. That's why most of
they are. But these are guys of Pakistani origin, and every time we've done a debate on this, Abbas, we will get lots of people say, if you come from Pakistan, immigration, which has been huge, mostly beneficial to this country for decades, but you will find within any group of people that certain tiers of very uneducated people come within a bigger subgroup. And if that is happening with men who see white women as just trash because they see white women as trash because that's all white women are, then it's not unreasonable to say that it could be an act of racism.
No, but you're right. But your point being is that it's more of a cultural or educational issue, or lack of respect because of that lack of education and sophistication. But what I'm trying to say to you is that people want to now say, well, we've got to mention their faith, for example, that there were Muslim Asian gangs there. The fact that they were Muslim did not make them any more likely to conduct those acts. But you'll get people who try to create these links between the religion and, in effect, what we're talking about is child and rape, for God's sake. When the religion bars even having sex out of marriage, it certainly
But the link that some people are trying to make is they're trying to link extremism, and in the same way that you would look at ISIS and you would say ISIS is a group of people who philosophically believe that their brand of Islam is way over and above, morally, ethically, theologically superior to anything else. We've said this before. They would probably prefer to break bread with me than you, Abbas, because they would see you as a traitor, etc. But people are putting that group in with the ISIS group, in with the child grooming gangs, and making the same conclusion. Can you see why they might do that?
I can understand why they might be saying that, but ISIS indeed do follow an ideology, a religious ideology, which is a very twisted and a very extreme and certainly a very polarized view, which was never the practice of within Islamic history. So these guys are an abomination, I totally agree. But the people that we have in Rotherham, they're not even practicing. These guys are not all bearded in the mosque all the time saying that they want to do this sexual jihad because of Allah. They're just out there as perverts looking for the easiest targets. And it happens that most of these girls were in care or single parents, and they were already damaged and already very hurt within society. And they went for those children because they know that if they go for Muslim girls, that they would get lynched. Because if a father or a brother found out this guy's, interfering...
So they went for white girls because they felt what? What do you think their thinking was?
Because they knew that they were easy targets, because they knew there would be less chance of getting caught. And that's what perverts and that's what, these sex fiends, this is what they do. They go for the easiest, weakest link. So these girls were in care, they were being looked after, they were already abusive turmoil or whatever. And
they just thought they were white trash, didn't they? It was as simple as that.
Absolutely. Well, I totally agree with you. But the issue here is they did not think they were white trash because they were practicing Muslims. They thought they were white trash because they were perverts and
uneducated. Yes, so I think we broadly agree on that side of things, and of course ultimately criminals. Abbas, thank you very much for that. 03456060973. It kind of fascinates me that I don't have an objection that if you are journalistically describing all of the kind of elements of somebody's background, and you find common denominators, that you might, perhaps in a different kind of world, you might mention someone's religion if you were confident that they were people that practiced their religion. I mean, for example, we didn't, shun away from Catholic priests doing what they were doing. It's not quite the same example, but you take the point. But I've tried to look at that and tried to think, well, hang on, is there any way you could make that fit, that these guys did this because they were Muslims? And I think of, I don't know how many dozens and hundreds of calls I would have taken on this. Either every Muslim caller, like Abbas, who does often wind me up the wrong way, but is every one of those callers lying? So all the female Muslim callers or the male Muslim callers over the last few years, when they talk about this and say this is not about Islam, there's nothing about it, is every one of them lying to me? I don't believe they are. I genuinely don't believe they are. And in fact, the more you look at it and you see sexually depraved, deviant, uneducated men in this case, then I think the act of racism is actually a fairly simple, it's a grotesque act, but it's a fairly simple and probably accurate reasoning behind what many of these attacks were all about. And it goes back to something Jack Straw, as former Home Secretary, had been arguing for years. There are, unfortunately, some men within his community that see white girls in this way. It was a different area of abuse that was being discussed at the time. That's about someone's lack of education as distinct from something that's written. I haven't read the Quran. I've read bits of it, but I can't imagine anywhere in the Quran it says that. And as Abbas said, if you did that try doing that in Saudi Arabia or anywhere else, and you will, you won't last very long, put it that way. 0345 6060 973.